Okay guys, we're back on, and we just finished up numbers. So if you have any questions about any of that stuff, go back and look at the video, or go back and do this lesson again, okay, on your own. And if you have any questions, then we can come back and talk about it next week or whatever. So mess with those things, do the lessons that are in there, mess with all of that stuff. You know, like I said, you're not going to mess anything up, because if you do, all you have to do is just reinstall it. So it's no big deal, okay? Okay, now they're going to talk about auto punctuation. Okay. The first letter of a word is a magic spot for total eclipse. If you've moved left or right by word, or you've used the hyperkeys, you know, left or right, to look for punctuation, you'll notice the cursor stops on the first letter of a word. Whenever your cursor is on that letter of a word and press a punctuation key, total eclipse automatically adjusts spacing and capitalization. So it already knows. You know, if you want to put a period there, it already knows. Put the period, space, space, cap the next word. Okay? So it already does it. You don't have to worry about doing it. The software does it for you. Okay, here it's talking about, you will notice that Eclipse wants to add punctuation before rather than after the word. So it's going to do it behind the word. So if your cursor is on the word and you push a comma, it's going to know to put the comma behind the word, not in front of the next word or in front of that word. So it always does it behind it, okay? This makes sense because you often do not realize punctuation is necessary until you've already read past the point where the comma or the period is needed. Okay? So, you know, if you're reading right here, to insert more than one punctuation mark, comma, your cursor would be here. So to insert more than one punctuation mark, just, oh, okay, your cursor's already here, you push comma, it automatically puts a comma there, and you don't have to worry about it. Okay? You put a period right there, it puts the period here, space, space, and capitalizes the J. Okay? So it already knows what to do. Okay, to insert more than one punctuation mark, just move your cursor where it is needed and start typing. Moving off the first letter of a word or pressing hyperkey in to type in text overrides the automatic punctuation features. Okay? So once you push in, it's like you are out of hyperkeys, and now you're just into insert mode. So now you're just into typing mode. So now, if you're in, which is insert, and you're here, and you want to put a comma, it's going to put a comma right there. It's not going to put a comma right here by after the E on there. It's going to put it right there by the I. So it's going to be there, space, comma. So it's not going to be there, comma, space, is anymore. Okay? So you're out of hyperkeys, so it doesn't know what to do. Now it's just in insert mode, and now it's just a word processor now. You're just typing stuff now. So wherever you want the punctuation, now you're going to have to move your cursor to put it there. Or push enter to get back into hyperkeys. Make sure that your that your cursor is here. You push comma, and it will know to put the comma after there, put the space, and then is. Okay? Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So even if you want to put a colon, you know, I was talking about putting a semicolon. We're talking about putting a colon right up here. So if you want to use, you know, the period, question mark, or colon, you put the colon, it already knows. Space, space, cap the next. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You don't have to, you know, don't overthink it. All you do is do shift, you know, colon or whatever. That puts the colon in there when you're in hyperkeys, and it automatically knows what to do. If you're not in hyperkeys, it's not going to do it. Okay? So if you're trying to do it, something's wrong. More than likely, you're not in hyperkeys, you're in insert mode. Okay?
The first letter of a word is a magic spot where Eclipse anticipates your needs, like the need to throw in a dash. Throw in a dash. So when you need a fast dash, just press the hyphen keys. And on the less frequent occasions when you do need a hyphen, just press the shift and hyphen keys together. I need dashes where you see the blue arrows. So I'll place my cursor on the beginning of this word and press the hyphen, and then move over, hyphen, move over, hyphen. And each time...
You see what it's doing there? You see what it's doing? So they're having a break in what they're saying. Did you say, I mean, suggest, excuse me, right? Strike that. He's losing his train of thought of what he's trying to say. So you don't want to keep that as commas because it doesn't make sense. He didn't say, did you say, I mean, suggest, excuse me, right, strike that. It's not commas, guys. It's breaks in what he's saying, okay? So you need the hyphen, I mean the dash, okay? And all you do when you're in hyperkeys is have your cursor right there, push the dash key, and it automatically puts it in there. So it puts a space, dash, space. It already knows what to do. If you're not in hyperkeys, it's not gonna do it. So if you're pressing it and it's not doing it, then you're probably not in hyperkeys. Okay? In hyperkeys, it's gonna know what to do. Okay? Any questions about that?
It only took one key to insert those dashes. I want to insert hyphens where you see the purple arrows. So I've placed my cursor on the beginning of this word and I'll press shift hyphen. See how the cursor moved over? Shift hyphen, shift hyphen.
You see what it's doing? Pretty neat. It's pretty neat. But you have to do the shift because you're going to use the dashes more than you're going to use the hyphen. Okay? So the one that you use the most is the one that's easiest to get to. The other one is going to be the shift. Okay? So you're going to use dashes more than you use the hyphen. So if you want to put the hyphen, and you know, I call that not yet ready for prime time article. Okay? It all is describing the article. Okay? So it needs to be dashed. Okay? And that's how you do it. You put it on the word before, the word after, and then push the shift and it puts it. But you have to keep doing it. Okay? It's not going to know, you know, just because you keep pushing it. You have to make sure the cursor is there, the cursor is there, the cursor is there.
If you blocked not ready yet for prime time,
and push shift,
would it give you the hyphens
yes,
all the way
it
through?
does. It does. Yeah.
Cool.
It's pretty neat, you know, and we'll try that here in just a bit or whatever. But you know, and it'll give you different options. You keep pushing it, and it'll give you different options of what it'll do. And we'll try it there here in a little bit.
Replay that for you so that you can see how quickly Eclipse can hyphenate a phrase for you. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are just 2 ways in which the automatic punctuation features can make your editing more efficient.
Any questions about that? Pretty neat stuff right there. Let's try it right here and see if it'll do it. F7, and shift. Oh, it put it on the, it did the dashes
Oh, okay.
instead when you do the shift. Yeah, it's doing the dashes instead.
Either way?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you know that, you know, this little thing right here is just a,
And aside.
well, let me ask you, well, you know what, blah, 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 and you know that this is it, all you have to do is mark it. Shift, dash, puts the dashes. Okay? So, you know, that's why I'm saying mess with it a little bit, so that you know exactly what it does. I'll be honest with you, I don't use that a whole lot. I'm just right there, and if I need it right there, then I push the dash, and it puts a dash right there. I push the hyphen and it puts a dash right there. So I already know what it does. You know, so it's just easier for me just to move my cursor, you know, by keeping my hands right there, come up, push the thing, instead of marking the whole thing, push the shift, whatever, and then it puts it at the end of both of that phrase, okay? So instead of doing that, it's just easier for me to move my cursor. But however you want to do it, it's up to you. That's the different ways of doing it. Let's see what it does. Mark. That's it. So what I did was I marked it, just push the dash, or the hyphen, I'm sorry, the hyphen. You just push the hyphen, and that's when it knows to put it like that. Try it, guys, try it in there.
You just press the hyphen, no shift?
No shift. The shift is going to put the dashes. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying mess with it a little bit. Even when we're doing stuff in the things, you know, right here, and you want to mess with it, mess with it. If it messes it up, like I said, just tell me. We'll take a second, we'll reload the lesson, and then we'll do it, okay? So, you know, I learned something too, because actually, you know, I don't use that stuff. So, yes, ma'am. You know, what I do is what the lesson taught us. You know, is you put your cursor here, put the thing, put the hyphen, 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 just keep moving over. You just push hyphen 4 times, it keeps moving over, and then it puts a hyphen. Or you can mark it, which is what? In hyperkeys? M. Correct. Is M. So you mark it, and then, you know, you push the hyphen. Okay? So however you want to do it is fine. Any questions about that?
Oh, I see. So every time you press M, it advances a word.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so however many words you want, you just keep pushing M, and it keeps marking, keeps marking, keeps marking. So you can mark as many words as you want. Okay? I'm going to show you something pretty neat right here, and this is what they're talking about, is putting stuff in quotations. You know, you can also put stuff in quotations. Push mark, M, push shift. You see what it did? Shift quote, the one quote. It automatically puts it in there on the thing that you marked. Did you see what it did? Mm-hmm. You push Z and it goes back to, you know, what it was. So that's one really neat thing about quotes, is if you know that the quote is already, you know that it's a small quote or whatever, you know, all you have to do is mark it, push shift quote, and it puts it at the beginning and the end of the thing that you just marked. Okay? Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Or you can just come here, push shift quote, it puts the one right there, and just go through and say it came right here, put it at the end, push shift quote, and it puts a quote there. So however you want to do it is fine, you know. It's up to you. But I mean, the easy way of doing it is marking it and pressing shift quote, and it'll put it at the end of the thing that you just marked. Okay? Okay, you see what it's doing right there? And what it's saying is, like say you want it right here, or your cursor's right here, but the end of the quote is here. Okay? No big deal. You push shift quote, it's going to put it there. Don't freak out. Push shift quote again without releasing your finger off the shift, and now it puts it over here. You see what it did? So you push shift quote, and it just moves it. It just keeps moving it. So wherever you want it, that's where it's going to put it. Okay? Pretty neat. Mess with it. Mess with it a little bit. Okay, need more than one punctuation mark? Just move your cursor one letter at a time until it is where it is needed, then start typing. Okay? So Jones and Jones, Inc., you know, they do the period, comma, Inc., period, comma, whatever. Okay?
I'm not sure I got that.
All right. Let's see.
Okay, now I see.
You see what it did? You have to move the cursor over. You're going to have to move the cursor over on certain things like that, but it will do it. Okay? You know, so if you want it, you know, say it's right there and it's a few ink or whatever, then it's period, control, arrow over, comma. And that's how you do it. Okay? So that's how you're going to do stuff like that. Because if not, you just keep pushing period, comma. It's going to keep switching the period and the comma. It's not going to know, it doesn't know what you're doing. It doesn't know that you need a period and a comma right there. So it's going to do what you're telling it to do. Well, I want a period. So it puts a period. Well, I want a comma too. Well, it puts a comma because it doesn't know that you want the comma and the period. Okay? So you just have to move your cursor over and put it there and it'll stay. Okay? Any questions about that? No big deal. Oh, I see what it says. So what they're trying to say right here is, you know, sometimes, you know, if you want to put a what they call an ellipsis, you know, it's a period, 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 you know, at the end, because they just kind of trail off and whatever. I don't always I don't know that I've ever used that personally. Maybe I should. I don't know. I usually don't. I usually put a dash like they lost their train of thought, which is kind of what they did. They'll go, well, he went, but
Well, he went, but that a dash is right there. But if I said, not only did he hit her, he hit her with his gun. Da, 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 da. There's nothing that comes after that. We're talking about a whole new thought, as opposed to an interruption of thought.
yeah, but that would almost be a period because that's the end of a sentence.
Yeah. That ellipsis stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you find that more in prose and writing rather than testimony.
Yeah.
Because testimony goes too fast.
Yeah. But, I mean, sometimes they'll say, well, he was going to go, or, hang on. Maybe he should go, so,
Can you just use the dash in that case?
yeah, I always just put a dash. You can use the ellipses like, you know, and then people do that, and they'll go, you can go, or what, you know? Or, and that's just the way they left it. I always put a dash. Or they'll say, you could go, but what? You know? I always put the dash. But
Okay.
you can, I guess you know, that's what they're trying to say is how you can use the ellipses.
If there's a but what after it, then yes, use the dashes. But if there's nothing after it,
That's what I'm saying. But what? And I'm using the what. I'm like, but what? I'm talking to the guy, but what? But I mean, he didn't say
No.
that. He just said but, and then there's
If
a
you
long
s-
pause, and he
and-
doesn't come back in.
you answered your question.
Yeah. So, yes, ma'am.
What if they're overemphasizing the last letter of the word? You just say the word?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your job isn't to put like emphasis on stuff that they do. You know, like even shouting. You know, and a lot of times, you know, and then we've had the fourth court, you know, on transcripts and stuff like that, come to the judges and say, you know, you really need to emphasize what you're trying to say, because a lot of times we're just reading it and we're reading it for what it's worth. And when somebody says something, it can read totally different when you're reading it as opposed to the way that they actually say it. So, but you know, our job isn't to put inflection in there, you know, like exclamation point or something like that. You know, it's just, I don't know that I've ever used an exclamation point, you know, to show emphasis on something or whatever. But anyway, we're kind of getting off the thing, but that's how you do it. You know, if you come to the end of a sentence, you know, and it's saying, you know, say there wasn't a period there, but you want to put a period there. You're in hyperkeys, push the P, puts the period there, and it's, you know, was a trail on sentence or, you know, a trail thought, not a trail sentence, but a trail thought, an ellipsis. Just keep pushing the period, not the P, because the P is going to take, you know, the period off again, I believe. No, it won't do anything. It doesn't do anything. So if you keep pushing P in hyperkeys, it's only going to put it there once, okay? But it's only doing what you're telling it to do, which P is put a period at the end of the sentence. But if you want extra periods, then you have to push the period itself, okay, is what it's saying. Okay, and here they're talking about the auto magic keys, and you know, when your cursor is on the first letter of a word, you'll notice that auto magic offers to help you insert punctuation. So when they say, well, we should go to the store now, It should be well, period. So, you know, and you have well, we, and your cursor is already on we, it's going to give you in the automagic, it's going to give you one of the selections is going to be insert punctuation. It's not going to be a comma usually. So it's going to ask, do you want to put in some kind of punctuation there? Yes, I do. And it was choice number 1. So you push number 1, then it's going to open a box of period, comma, colon, semicolon, blah, 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 and then you pick the one that you want. To me, if you're first using Eclipse, it's a great way to learn punctuation, which is not really that big of a deal. It's the punctuation that you use. So, I mean, it's no big deal. But, you know, if you know, you're not sure, but you know that some kind of punctuation goes there, then all you have to do is open the box, select the box, select comma, and it puts it in there. Or you can just have your cursor on the word, well, we, and this is we, and your cursor is here, you just push comma, it already puts the comma by well, space, and then keeps going. So I think it just saves you a little bit more time, but you know, you can do it however you want. Okay? Any questions about that? All right.
Let's see some of the choices that Eclipse AutoMagic offers relating to punctuation. Punctuation. Words like yes or no are often the start of a paragraph, or perhaps they require some punctuation right before them. AutoMagic makes it easy to insert any paragraph type, or if I press 1, I'll see that Eclipse would insert the appropriate punctuation mark. Although in this case, AutoMagic would involve one extra step, the goal is to teach a new user that with your cursor on the first character of a word, Eclipse is ready to insert punctuation for you without requiring several cursor movements or the deletion of some other punctuation before you can insert the new one.
That's exactly what I was just saying, guys. So if you don't know, and you're like, oh man, I don't remember how to put a comma in there. Okay, no big deal. It gave you the selection over here in AutoMagic. Select punctuation. It's going to open up the box that it showed you.
That with your cursor on the first character of a word, Eclipse is ready.
It's going to open this box right here and then ask you what you want to do. Well, that's the speed key. Remember the speed keys? These are the speed keys for what you want to do. So it's asking you what you want to do. You want to put a comma? Well, then just press comma. So if you don't know how to do it, then that's what you go to. Insert punctuation, then it tells you what to do. But if not, it's pretty simple. You just put put whatever punctuation in hyperkeys. Remember, you have to be in hyperkeys, because if you're in insert mode, it's going to put the comma right there by Y, not over here after M. Okay? So be very careful with that. If it puts the comma right there by Y, then you know you're not in hyperkeys. Okay? How do we know we're in hyperkeys?
The icon on top and the bottom right.
And
and
and your cursor is thick. It's the bigger cursor. Yeah. So, which is correct. See, the hyperkey button is going to be pushed in. Hyperkey is going to be right here, and you're going to have the thick cursor. If it's real thin, then you know you're in insert mode. Okay? Good.
To insert punctuation for you without requiring several cursor movements or the deletion of some other punctuation before you can insert the new one. If I do insert a comma here, AutoMagic makes it easy to remove or change this punctuation in case I really needed something different.
So if you want to remove the punctuation, no big deal. It gives you an option right here. You go to number 1, and what it's going to tell you to do is just backspace. So if your cursor is right here on Y, all you do is backspace, and it takes the comma out. Okay? You don't have to backspace, because there's a space, then the comma. You don't have to backspace. You backspace once, and it knows that you want to take the punctuation out. Okay?
This sentence should read, I don't know if it It is nice. The word it is repeated. Automagic offers as its first choice to place a comma in front of this second it. If I press 2, that would insert a dash, which is what I really need here. And if I press 3, that would delete the extra it.
You see what it's doing there? Okay? So it's already thinking ahead. What is he or she wanting to do right here? There's two words that are the same. So it's either going to be a comma. I don't know if it is nice. That doesn't make sense, but it's a possibility. You know, if it was, you know, if it read differently, and it could. You know, it could where you have two words that are the same, but they just need to be separated by a comma. Or a dash, which you put your cursor right here. Hyperkeys, you're already in dash, you push what? Hyphen? For a dash? Push the hyphen for a dash when it's in hyperkeys. Because it's the one that you use the most. Do the hyphen, puts a dash right there, which is what you need. Or do you want to delete the word? I don't know if it is nice. It could read that way. So you see how punctuation can change a sentence? I mean, you can punctuate a sentence 3 different ways, and it could have 3 different meanings. You see what it's doing there? And you know, maybe it does need a comma. I don't know if it is nice. I don't know. I don't know if it is nice. I don't know. Maybe, but if you put a comma in there, it is going to change the meaning of that sentence. As opposed to if you put dashes there, it takes on a totally different meaning. And if you delete one of these it takes on a totally different meaning there. So you have to be careful what punctuation you use, okay? And you're not there to clean them up. You're there to write what they said, okay? So if he said, I don't know if it is nice, that's dashes. Because he thought about what he said, he broke the sentence, totally different sentence now, you know? But it doesn't need a cap, it's just he broke his train of thought and then finished his thought, okay? So they give you the different options right there. It also gives you the option here of changing it. So if it's supposed to be, I don't know if it's nice. It has a 3-car garage. Put your cursor here. D deletes it. Put your cursor here. 4 puts it there. Put your cursor here. D deletes it. Y'all see what I just did? Okay. Any questions about that?
At the end of a paragraph, automatic choices include some punctuation changes. Just what I really need here. And if I press 3, that would delete the extra it. At the end of a paragraph, automatic choices include some punctuation changes. Of course, you could change the ending punctuation to a period, question mark, or dash from any point in the sentence. But this is one more example of how Automagic is trying to teach new users, and perhaps even experienced users, the shortcuts that make it possible to do these edits with a minimum of steps.
Any questions about that? Pretty simple, but pretty neat too.
Hotkeys, pop-ups, and fonts are a few Automagic display options that are found in the View Toggles dialog. Let's see. At the right edge of the info bar, Automagic can show the speed keys or hyper keys that are available as keyboard shortcuts. This can help new users to learn the keyboard shortcuts for editing efficiency, but more experienced users may want to hide them. This can be done by going to the View Toggles dialog and unchecking the box that appears next to Hotkeys. Your Automagic choices can also be displayed in a small pop-up window that can appear after a short delay. The delay is expressed in milliseconds, and the default setting is half a second. So as I move my cursor, the choices offered by AutoMagic are brought closer to where I'm looking. In fact, you can hide the info bar entirely and still see your AutoMagic choices, only in a pop-up. To do this, go to the View Toggles dialog and uncheck the box next to Info Bar, but leave the choices next to AutoMagic and Pop-up checked. That frees up some space on the screen without depriving you of your AutoMagic choices. Don't forget that you can adjust the font that's used to display your AutoMagic choices. For instance, you could use a smaller font that's narrow and bold. The AutoMagic choices would still be very readable, but now the info bar would not need to be as wide. So you could use the mouse to hover over the right edge of the info bar, then hold down the left mouse button while you drag to the left. That could free up some display space for other elements on your screen.
I have no idea why they showed that again, but just in case you missed it the first time, they just showed it again. Any questions about that? About the little pop-ups and the info bar? Okay, here they're just talking about different ways of moving around. You know, you guys know it, I, J, K, L, O. And then Shift O is the move over two words, you know, so no big deal. And then the, you know, it's just talking about right here, the hyper keys J and L, which is the shift, moves over one character. Not one word, one character. Okay? So if you want to get in between, you know, a word or whatever, you know, you do the shift L and it's moving over one character. Shift J comes back the other way. Okay? P and Q is your period and question mark. Okay? Okay. And the shift takes you down to the next period. So if you do shift P, it takes you down to the next period. It'll take you down to the next sentence, sentence, sentence. Okay? All right. Any questions about any of that stuff?
No.
Do the exercises, guy. Okay, guys. You know, and then if you have any questions, you come here and you know, they'll give you the answers right here. But you know, the hyphen puts the dashes in there when you're in hyperkey, so that's what they're doing right here. Or you can mark it, and it puts the dashes on either side of what you just marked. You know, something that's pretty neat is, you know, say you're right here at the beginning of the sentence, and you know that it's a break in the sentence. He didn't finish, or somebody either interrupted him or whatever, and you're right there, and you want to put dashes at the end of the sentence. Alt-D, and try it. Alt-D puts dashes at the end of the sentence. So you can be anywhere, in any sentence, whatever, and push Alt D, and at the end of the sentence, it should put dashes. Did it? And then just push Z, Z, and it should, correct what you did or whatever, what you just did. Got it? That's pretty neat too. Any questions about punctuation that we just covered? No? All right, I'm going to shut off.